Let's take another trip to Nintendoland, shall we, Alex O'Neill? That's right.
Hell yeah, let's go, Mike.
Let's do it. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another episode. That's right. I'm Mike Burgess, video producer, video editor, and I'm here with, of course, the legend himself, Alex O'Neill of Irrational Passions.
Ooh, legend.
This is our monthly Nintendo-focused podcast, talking all things Nintendo news, Nintendo games, what we're playing on Nintendo Switch. All that stuff is going on. What do you got there for the video viewers?
It's a Power Star, but you can't like see it because of the lighting. It's like a little Mario Star.
Love it. I love the representation. Love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've originally, at least me, I thought August was going to be a pretty slower month for Nintendo. And like, I guess in terms of game releases it was, but like we got a lot of news. Like they kind of dropped a lot of stuff on us. Like we technically got 2 directs, but they were game focused ones because we got a Pokemon Presents, which showed a lot of general Pokemon stuff and new Scarlet and Violet stuff. Splatoon 3 had a direct because that's pretty close to coming out. Mario Kart 8 DLC finally released. And so we're going to talk about all that stuff. Plus some other not so fun things, like other things.
Yes.
What do you got?
First, though, we should mention that we are actually going to Nintendoland in some shape or form.
Right.
In the variety that we are going to Seattle, where Nintendo will, Nintendo's there, actually.
It's true.
That's their land.
We're going to break into their
but they
Nintendo
will have
America
a presence
office.
at PAX West.
That is right. This episode will go up probably like a little bit like probably like a week or so before PAX West, but then we will actually be going to PAX West.
PAX West is 11 days from now.
Yeah, I know. It does not feel real. It still feels pretty foreign as we both have been people probably who have been in our houses for roughly the last 2 years. And this will
2.5 years or so.
Yeah, this will definitely be my first time on a plane since before all of that. So looking forward to it for sure, but it's right, it's coming up. It's gonna come up pretty quick here. And we're gonna go there. We're gonna check out some Nintendo stuff that is there. I know there will be some kind of Pokemon demo there, and probably like some Splatoon stuff as well. So we're definitely gonna try and get some hands on with that, and that'll probably be what we talk about next episode. So look forward to that. And hey, if you are in that weird little diagram of people who listen to us and end up going to PAX West, feel free to reach out and we can maybe say hi at the show. But for now, let's get into some of this news because there was a lot of it. I think the first thing I want to talk about is if we finally got the Wave 2 of Mario Kart 8's DLC. I felt like this was like that last true piece of like kind of the big summer Nintendo like release schedule. Like there was multiple months I felt like we thought we were going to get this, and they just kind of like kept not really talking about it at all. And it's like, where is this? Is it okay? Is like something weird's going on? Like some people were freaking out maybe a little bit more than they should have, but it was fine. First week of August, boom, 8 more tracks. So I think, let's see if I remember all the tracks from the top of my head because I don't have the list in front of me, but I think I remember them. We got more tour tracks. So that was New York Minute, the New York theme track. We got Sydney Sprint, the Sydney Australia track. We got Game Boy Advance Mario Kart Snowland, which is like a new remake of a track that hasn't even been in tour yet. So that's pretty cool. We got Waluigi Pinball, probably one of the best tracks in Mario Kart franchise, really. So I'm really excited that came back in all its beautiful glory. We got Calamari Desert from N64, which that had a cool kind of glow up with how the track works. And then we got an entirely new track called Sky High Sunday. It's like a big ice cream oval track that's all anti-grav in Mario Kart 8. And that's pretty cool, very colorful. And then there's one more. One more.
I've got them pulled up now.
Yeah, one more. Oh, Mushroom Gorge from the Wii, which is like another. That was like a fan favorite from the Wii Mario Kart. Mushroom Gorge.
Yeah, I guess two more then. Because I mean, it's the least interesting one was Mario Circuit 3.
Mario Circuit 3, yes, the Super Nintendo Mario Circuit 3. Yeah, not the most interesting one, but also like I figured they would probably get one of those tracks in there just because they're have that classic representation from that original game, even if they aren't as interesting. But yeah, we got
looks pretty.
8 more tracks. We around when they released, streamed it. So if you're on youtube.com/irrational passions watching the video version of this, you can also go find that archive of us playing through all those tracks and a couple other tracks from Mario Kart 8. Yeah, and it was a solid set of 8 tracks in my opinion. I think they definitely felt like a big step up from those first set of tracks, because the first set of tracks I liked overall, but they definitely felt pretty simple. Like I think like the Tokyo and the Paris tracks were cool, but also pretty simple, and like didn't have like much going on. They were pretty standard tracks, which is fair because they're like the first ones. The first in the cups, so to speak, are always kind of that way. So this felt like a step up of like, all right, we got this New York and Sydney tracks, the city tracks from Tour. Definitely had a lot more going on, like a lot more variations that you were going through in the levels. The Sydney track in particular, I think, is really cool. It's just like it feels like a much bigger track than a lot of the other city tracks have been so far, and I appreciated that, where it felt like the first time playing one of these city tour tracks where I was actually driving around a city, because you just have these bigger stretches of road and these other like kind of bigger areas that are going around, to like the point where like I remember the first time driving around it, I was like almost like going in the wrong directions purposely, because I felt like I was driving around like on a straight road, more or less, even though you're turning off onto different ramps and stuff like that because it's Mario Kart. But I like that track a lot.
Yeah.
What was
I'd say like
I was gonna say, what was kind of one of your standouts for that?
I really like obviously the Sky High Sunday, because it's all 0G. We talked about here of like that was like one of my things that I really wanted more of.
Yep.
Was 0G, and they have just an entirely 0G one, which is fun. Just because I like the boosts off each other. I will say the Mushroom Gorge is like a chaotic evil track that I have a love-hate relationship with.
Yeah.
I think it's good, and I think it's really cool. It's just those mushroom bounce part, like it is like hit or miss. Sometimes you're going too fast, like in 200cc or whatever, you are going too fast to hit all those sometimes. It is just
you just go flying. Yeah, that's definitely like the big thing with that track for sure.
Yeah, but Calamari Desert, very good. Extremely good blow up, like you said.
Yeah, it's really cool because they basically combined the original Calamari Desert from N64 with a updated Calamari Desert track they did in Tour, which is literally just called Calamari Desert 2, where it's straight up is just on the second lap of the 1 and 8. Now you take that route instead, where you actually go onto the track, the train tracks, and like race around, and it makes it more of like a sectioned based track rather than just like a loop every lap. And I think they did a really good job with that. And like they even like what I thought, something I wasn't sure if they were going to do is they, on one of those laps to go onto there, they like put like a big red ramp that just appears in the middle of the race out of nowhere. And that's the thing that comes from Tour. Like Tour has like when they have like their tours every few weeks, they also have trick variants of courses. So it'll be like, literally like right now they added that ice cream track into Tour now, and like there's like a Sky High Sunday T, and they have like those big red kind of girder looking ramps everywhere that you can also go off and do tricks on, because like a Tour is all score based, so you want to do a bunch of tricks. So it's cool to like see them include that kind of idea from Tour into 8.
It seems like they're leaning into that conceptual, like different each lap, like way harder as time goes on. Because if you think of like default Mario Kart 8 or vanilla Mario Kart 8, forgive the pun, that is like a lot of what you kind of expect. You get some of the stuff like the Bowser's Castle that has like 2 paths at one point,
right?
But very rarely. And then in the DLC, we got some of those. In the base game, you got the Wario Snow Mountain thing. I forget the name of it, which is all one long track.
Yep.
And then in the DLC, we get Big Blue and stuff that is also all one track, like one really long track, kind of cut into 3 sections. Mm-hmm. And now they're kind of doing a lot of this, like lap 2 is a little different, lap 3 is really different, or something like that. Not just with like the I guess it is mostly the tour tracks, which is probably where they experimented with that first in general. But it's cool. It's like a cool idea for Mario Kart, just because like it you have to kind of stay on your toes throughout the whole track.
Yeah. Sure.
Versus like like, oh, this turn I know I'm gonna just be fine. It's like, oh, now it's like a little bit different, or now I'm going across different terrain. Obviously you'll learn it eventually,
Right.
but in a single race it's harder to go on like autopilot,
Yeah, for sure. And that definitely seems like that'll be the kind of running theme for sure. This DLC is definitely, with the tour tracks, they will be more multi-leveled, kind of combining all of the variants that tour introduces into like one big track. And I really do like that aspect of just being able to preserve those tracks so they won't have to always live in a mobile game. And also, them bringing a new idea even into 8. And overall, I think, they did a good job with this. It has made me pretty excited for this DLC, especially because a ton of stuff leaked. So basically, alongside this, so I'll give you, and maybe people who aren't familiar, like the kind of quick timeline of when the first wave of DLC came out. Somebody was able to pull out like the prefixes, basically, of like where each track comes from. So basically, like straight up had a thing where they were able to pull up the DLC menu and see all the cups. And when they put their selecting a cup, you can see what the actual track was, but you could see like, hey, this one has the Wii, it's Wii or Game Boy or DS. So, like, people were able to pull that during the first wave. It was one of those things where like we don't know if it was fully accurate. Like it could be still kind of placeholdery. We didn't know at that time, because there's, especially like when you got to those later cups, there were a lot of blank spots in those kind of selections. So when we got to these next 4 that just came out, they were 1-for-1 matching those prefixes down to like the new track having a blank spot. So it seems it's pretty likely that will follow suit. I think some people will be maybe disappointed by, there's not going to be any more N64 tracks for the rest of the DLC, because there's no more N64 tracks. But you might
let him rest.
Yeah, I was going to say you will probably be happy to know though that for every next, there'll at least be one GameCube track in every wave coming from here on. There'll be one more GameCube track. I think there'll be one more Wii track in each of those 2. But also, there's 5 more blank spots, meaning there's potentially 5 brand new courses also coming for the rest of the DLC. A lot of that is towards the very end. Like I straight up think like the last wave has like 2 or 3 blank spots. So it's possible we somehow get 3 entire new tracks by then, but I could also see maybe those just not being finalized, because those are technically more than a year away, because those would be end of 2023 when those will come out. So they might just not be all selected, but it's still possible.
Let me hit you with this, Mike.
Okay.
Because I want your speculation here. And we're just speculating.
Yeah.
Do you think in this final wave, similar to OG Mario Kart 8, do you think we will get more crossover tracks, like a Star Fox track, for example?
That would be really cool. I would love to see another crossover track of some kind.
Star Fox Grand Prix. Yeah. It's real.
it was just a Mario Kart track this whole time.
It was Mario Kart track the
whole time. Not to go too deep into other. Also, there's a lot of like data mining and stuff going in Mario Kart Tour as well. Mm-hmm. And people have data mined some kind of potential Yoshi's Island track.
Okay.
So that might also be here. We don't really know though, because it's some of like that stuff is a lot more obscure than even the 8 stuff that we now have. Because there was another bigger, I would say, data mine / leak with this second wave that came out. And that is straight up Nintendo left music files, not the full music.
That's right.
But not the full tracks, but like little snippets of music from for the remaining tracks, to the point where like it was enough where it's like 14 some tracks. So we literally pretty much know the next wave of wave 3 of DLC because of how they named them, and we also know like it's like a smattering of tracks throughout the rest of the other waves next year. It basically confirms pretty much every tour track that's available right now is pretty much in this DLC. That seemed pretty obvious at this point because we've gotten pretty much 3 tour tracks, more or less. Like, granted, that's Sky High Sunday you could be technical about, but I think that's you consider that original track. But it was also it also came out pretty much in tour at the exact same time. So we've already had 3 in the first wave, and now 5. You can say at least 5 or 6 tour tracks. And it seems like the next wave will once again have 2 more tracks. And if again the follow this leaks, it'll be the London track and the Berlin track. So Berlin, Germany. So those will be the next 2 city tracks. We will also be getting the Christmas track, which I think I might have mentioned in the previous episode. In tour, they made like a Christmas themed like unique track. It's called Merry Mountain. It's like and it has like, big piles of Christmas presents, and you're going up this big snowy mountain, and through like this little like Christmassy themed town. So that
Banjo-Kazooie vibes with that. I love it.
Yeah. It looks like actually a pretty fun track. And that came in tour a while ago, but now it looks like it'll be in the next wave of DLC. But my most exciting one is that we will probably be getting the 3DS Rainbow Road for the next wave. And that's very exciting because that's like probably my favorite Rainbow Road in the franchise, besides some of the ones in 8 now, but still, like, that's very exciting that we're going to be getting that. Let's see if I can remember anyone that's specifically next wave. I think there was definitely, I think it followed pretty suit with the other ones where it's like a mixture of popular tracks, but also some like new remaster tracks or new original tracks. That's right. There will be some kind of Boo like boardwalk kind of stage, but it'll be
I love that stage.
Yes, well, it'll be the game one from the Game Boy, so it'll be like a remake. So it'll be kind of a newish one, but like we don't know 100% because like I think there was 2 of those tracks in the Game Boy one, and they shared the same music, so it's really could be either or kind of thing. But yeah,
I think the Game Boy one is like a reimagining of the Super Nintendo one, right? That's the one I really like.
It has completely original tracks in it, but it also has all of the SNES tracks in it.
Got it. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah, there was Super Circuit, which is the Game Boy one, and then Super Mario Kart. But Super Circuit, the Game Boy one, has a bunch of original tracks, but it also has a bunch of it has pretty much all the SNES tracks in it as well. And I will say, like considering the Game Boy tracks that we've gotten, even in base Mario Kart and now in this game, like the glow up they've gotten is pretty big because that's like
substantial.
Ribbon Road, and then like Cheese Land. Like we're in the DLC for the first set of DLC for Mario Kart 8, and those are awesome tracks. Sky Garden from the first wave, and now Snowland from this are like all really
Sky Garden is great.
Yeah, they're really cool tracks. So we're pretty much beginning more or less a new reimagining of like a boardwalk kind of Boo stage, and I think that's super cool for the next wave. And then there's some other stuff in there, like it was popular tracks from all over, smaller Mario Kart games, because again we're not going to be getting a lot of N64 stuff, so there wasn't anything in there. First, but it's like Maple Treeway music was in there, so that's a pretty popular track from the Wii game. Peach Gardens, which is the DS track, which is pretty cool because it's like you're literally going through like it's like a track that's like a hedge maze or like a garden maze next to like a big Peach's Castle like equivalent. That's from the DS one. It's pretty cool because you like literally race this hedgeway area, and there's like chain chomps like in the area, so you can like come around a corner and just chain chomp like running around. That's pretty good. The next one as well, Waluigi Stadium. We're gonna Waluigi Stadium from the GameCube. So I think that's the next wave as well. So unfortunately, it got leaked, but also like Nintendo kind of left those files in the game, so people just kind of found it. So it is what it is. People are gonna go track that stuff down. That sometimes it's just how it's gonna go.
A lot of leaks this year. It's the year of leaks.
There's a lot of leaks. We'll be getting more into that with another thing as well. When we get to our Pokemon segment, there's been some stuff there too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's Mario Kart. Again, always super fun to like jump back in for new tracks, and I'm excited for now we kind of know the next set of tracks. I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I loved this past set. It was a great time.
It
In
was.
true Nintendo fashion, they announced it like 35 minutes after we finised recording Nintendoland. So,
Yeah, that's usually that's just how it goes.
yep.
It always comes down to there. But next up, and some not so great news, and this in some ways is a little bit of a follow up to kind of the in the world of contracting for Nintendo, specifically more in the the America side of Nintendo. Because granted, that's like what we can see. There's been more allegations made by testers of sexual harassment they faced as being working for Nintendo's and contracting when they've been contracted out, and just like there's been a lot of poor working conditions for those workers, unfortunately. I have this Kotaku article here from Sissy Jiang. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Apologies if not. But it's basically just a big breakdown of, she speaks to, who they've named in the article. This isn't her name, but Hannah, of like kind of her experience while she was at Nintendo. And here I kind of skimming a little bit because it is a pretty big article, but I'll find some points here. Is like here's a quote from her saying, "Nintendo was almost like a nightmare. It's sad because I love Nintendo. I grew up with Nintendo. So I decided to join Nintendo when I first got there, and I thought I was going somewhere. I had my supervisors telling me I was doing such a good job, but by reporting the incident, she set off a chain of events that led her to quit a job at testing Nintendo games. So basically, she was hoping she had a good time, but it's she's kind of talking about like how like now it's when she was doing testing, she was there during 2017. She felt like it was kind of a frat house. She had like dudes being kind of shitty towards her and making sexual remarks and trying to get remarks out of her. We should mention Nintendo staffed these testing departments with temporary employees, so it was a lot of very contractors and like not great ways of like they did a lot of things to get out of the way of trying to hire them full time by like having them work for a bunch of months, then cutting them off for a couple months, and then having them trying to bring them back on, so that way they couldn't get full time work or benefits or anything like that. They kind of were skimping them that way.
This a little bit of what we had heard earlier in the year of like contractors being kind of treated like second class citizens compared to full time or salaried Nintendo employees.
Yep. Yeah, and it's something interesting to talk about. Is one of the companies are now former companies that was part of this that Nintendo contracted was a part of a completely separate labor dispute. They were called Aerotech, and funnily enough, I worked for Aerotech back in 2015.
Oh, wow.
But like it was a very different state there. But now hearing that they had multiple labor lawsuits filed against them, and now have been like split into a bunch of different smaller brands because of their kind of shitty actions, is now it's not surprising to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she goes on like about the Aerotech's response was unsatisfactory to her claims of she put in claims of all this harassment and things going on, and Aerotech clearly did not care and kind of shut him off. So again, it's just really unfortunate. Like it's always that double-edged thing when these stories come out, right? Of like it sucks to hear that these things happen at these places we love that make these great games, but like at the end of the day, like people are getting treated like fucking garbage for making these games the best they can be, and like that's not how it should be. It's just it really sucks.
Yeah, on top of them typically being the people that like don't get any credit for anything, right? Like testers very very rarely are recognized. Sometimes even in credits in like Nintendo games, you'll see like special thanks and then thanks to all our testers, and like that's it, right? Yeah. Like,
or they'll just name some generic company that's like, here's the company that did it.
Yeah, it's a big bummer, and there's still just like a lot of poor management, toxic masculinity, sexual harassment, things like obviously Activision has been in the hot seat for a very long time, but like we've heard about this from a lot of places, a lot of different places, including Nintendo. And it's good to have like details. I definitely encourage people to like go through it and empathize and try and like put yourself in a position of like feeling totally powerless because you're on the hook for this contract and you don't really have any other options, you know?
Yeah. And something that I think is interesting that's worth pointing out too is on the same day Kotaku reported some of these conditions of contract workers. Nintendo America President Doug Bowser internally acknowledged the allegations about working conditions. And he said that Nintendo has zero tolerance for inappropriate conduct, including harassment, discrimination, or intimidation. And then, Kotaku has reached out for what steps Nintendo is taking to enforce the zero tolerance policy, but they have not received any more comments beyond that. So at least they're internally saying they're doing stuff, but I hope it actually does lead to something, right? Like it's, this stuff did come out fairly recently, so it's always difficult when you hear people at the top saying like, they're just putting out their generic statements. Whether that leads to something, we don't know. Maybe it could, maybe it couldn't, but it is just kind of seeing.
It's tough, but I will say, like, I'm not trying to glass half full too hard here. I know this is terrible, but like part of the reporting on this and some of the impact it has, like obviously Rockstar recently had like a report come out of like things have gotten a lot better there, and that was rough stuff to hear about in 2018. So hearing things have gotten better there after like this was brought to the attention of the public, and then like obviously there's a lot of uprising internally, that this could have a positive fallout from just talking about it, engaging it. Don't avoid the conversation. Listen, obviously, empathize, be better, and be there for the people who are more vulnerable than you and have less privilege than you.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely seems like there's a lot of stuff in here that just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
As like it's good to hear when there is positive effect when companies and studios actually take action, but like, hopefully more and more places start doing that, and Nintendo themselves clearly this was a couple years ago, so maybe who knows, maybe now they're doing a better job of it. It's hard to say, but the fact that these kind of happened in the first place, like, and it was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago, right? Like this was only 2017. That was a couple years ago. So it's hard to say that maybe the conditions could just be better, and I hope they are working towards a better working environment for these people, and looking for the people who are making the problems and removing them, because they're straight up talking about this person in here who's clearly like using his position of higher authority to hit on smaller new people, and using his his I'm friends with everybody kind of place to keep these people down and continue toxic behavior. It's unfortunate for sure.
And if you're in a job and someone is threatening to fire you if you don't do what they say, it is not a good time, and it doesn't feel good, and that should not be how things are run.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but I hope for brighter times, I hope for brighter times and not too many of these kind of articles for Nintendo to read this kind of stuff. Let's hope it's better now, or it's getting better. Pivoting to other video game news, which it is what it is. We're talking about Nintendo, good and bad, and there was some good stuff, and there's some more cool announcements that I think I was looking forward to. And there was a Splatoon 3 Direct. We had a 20-minute breakdown of, they kind of gave us what people expected, right? Because we didn't really have a lot of Splatoon news during the summer. Granted, it's still the summer, technically it's August, but we got the big 20-minute Nintendo Direct that was focused on Splatoon stuff, and man, they showed a whole heck of a lot of that game. And it got me like excited. Like I was like, this is definitely a game I'm by default probably just gonna go buy, because I always kind of get a lot of first-party Nintendo games.
Yes.
But seeing
I like Splatoon a lot as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I like Splatoon 2 a lot when it came out, and I liked the DLC, the expansion. But I didn't get much into like the multiplayer side this time around compared to the first game. And some of that had to just do with like their weird Nintendo's going to be Nintendo Online policies and how they do stuff. But this one is definitely seeming a little bit better out the gate. In terms of there's Salmon Run, which is a big mode I know we're both very excited for, and I think was like a really big missed opportunity in that in Splatoon 2. It's like kind of their horde mode equivalent, and now it is going to be playable whenever, and also you can join on and like they showed it in this footage, like something that has not really, it made me realize like, man, neither of those Splatoon games had like you could just party up and like go and do a thing. And like they showed it in this footage, and that's like remembering that and be like, oh yeah, neither of those games had that. That's crazy. But now it's like we saw footage of person inviting a person to their game, and then they're in their social space together, and then they can match make together, and you can do that in normal Splatoon matches of whatever. But also it has been confirmed. I don't think they explicitly say it in the direct, but like you can go to the official Splatoon website and they say like that's also possible with Salmon Run. You can play it anytime with your friends or with just 4 players, and that's fantastic. That this game will just work like a modern multiplayer video game.
They took them 3 tries, but they got, to be fair, like this is Nintendo's like one shooter franchise, like, so this is like their end point.
They kind of have to get it in right at this point.
Yeah,
they have to get Splatoon right from a online multiplayer perspective.
I'm curious, like I know we'll get into some more details too, and I think we talked about this before, but like I really think that this game has the potential to like blow up.
Yeah.
Because like when Splatoon 2 came out, that was like first year of the Switch, and it did very well. And like people still play Splatoon 2. I know it doesn't have like, as much support, but like I'm very curious to see if this actually like really takes off for Nintendo. Do you think it might?
Yeah, I definitely think it has the potential to, just because like in some ways this is personally the Splatoon 2 I kind of wanted. Because it's like,
same.
Again, it has the multiplayer stuff we just talked about. It has way more content out the gate. Like they showed like 12 multiplayer maps are going to be in the game out the gate. Obviously there's the single player mode stuff too, which I always really liked from those games. That's all there too. I think they said like every base weapon that's been in the game up till now will be there. I think
along with the Splatanas.
The Splatanas, they showed a bunch of and plus some new weapons and new special abilities. So there'll be new stuff there too. And I think just again, like I always like the Splatfest concept that they do there. It's like it's fun. I like the extra twist they have of like some will be like 3-player thing. There'll be some kind of like in point where it's like 3 people.
It's like. Yeah, like 4 people on one team, and then 2 on one, and 2 on a third, and then you have to like you can either like the 2 groups of 2 can either team up to take down the big one, or they can all just fight for themselves. It's like a really cool idea.
Yeah, I definitely like that. I definitely am very curious how that'll pan out, and I just like the kind of like switch up of that idea, and it's fun in general just having like the dumb little battles they've had where it's like this is like rock paper scissors, or like here's remember. I think it was in Splatoon 1. I don't know if it was in 2 where they had like actual like collaborations where it's like here's SpongeBob versus Patrick.
That's right.
That happened. Yeah. And
or ketchup versus mayonnaise or whatever. Like they've done some dumb ones too, which I appreciate.
It's always fun. Yeah, and I love that stuff. I love them doubling down more on like the all the crazy fish crustacean characters. You have like what was it? I know like there's Big Man, of course, the Big Man.
Big Man, yes.
Good, but I'm trying to remember the name of like the duo, the new like singer duo. It's like Fry and something else, I forget, but it does rhyme like they always do. So that's fun. It just looks like a good. It kind of was the bigger step up I wanted from 1 to 2, and like 2 was fun, like you said. Like I played it in like single player was fun. The Octo expansion was really fun. I think that was definitely like actually probably my favorite part of like Splatoon 2 period, like that DLC. So I'm looking forward to them like going even further with this one from every aspect. It looks like they're like every aspect of that game they're making bigger and better. And they also confirmed like like the other ones, like it'll have free post launch support, so they'll add maps and potential game modes and more like little weapon combos. And they also said there will also be a paid expansion like Octo expansion for this DLC for this Splatoon game as well at some point in the future. And it did tease that it's like it'll probably be they'll have the like the first one, it brought back the two from the first game. This will bring back the duo from the second game, because you could see kind of in the art they teased it was like them kind of grayed out the Rosa Marina, and now I'm forgetting the name of that one too.
Shiver and Fry are the new ones.
Fry are the five
with Big Man, obviously the most important aspect of that, though. It's hard to focus on Shiver with Big Man.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You see, as soon as you see Big Man, it's just like, okay, yep, this is great. And I like them getting in general. Like the characters that were in the shops were like a lot more like crazy than I think they've been in the past. Where like there's this weird big crab looking man that's like super buff is like one of the shop dudes this time. It's super fun.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole Splatoon, like turning its menu into essentially a city that you walk around has always, in my opinion, been like such a super cool, unique idea. And them just 100%. Leaning harder into that is the bet. Like the Salmon Run option in the menu is like a dude in a back alley, right? Like it's just it's great stuff that I love to see.
Yeah, it's fun. To see all that. It's just having that whole vibe of that little hub is really great. I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, this definitely got me a lot more excited for Splatoon 3 than I even was. Just hearing hearing all the modern multiplayer features, hearing it's like a bigger game, and kind of showing why you're making Splatoon 3 rather than making more content just for Splatoon 2, right? Was just nice to see.
Still don't have a lot of info on this single player stuff, but
right.
Maybe they're keeping it under wraps for a reason. Maybe it'll get super weird and wild. Who knows?
It's possible. I'd honestly be okay if it's more of just the kind of more level based stuff that we've had in the past. I think they always had a lot of fun ideas with that concept. So I'd be okay. But if it would just end up being a little bit more of that. But yeah, something a little bit more different would be interesting too. Like more open areas or a bigger map to explore or something could be interesting too.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm with you in that. Like I got Splatoon 1 a little late, so then I didn't end up playing that much of it, and then I got Splatoon 2, and it's like, okay, this is just a little bit better Splatoon 1.
Yeah.
With Salmon Run that I can only play sometimes, I guess. So this definitely feels like the more kind of feature complete Splatoon game I've been looking for. So.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I like that first game a lot too. Like I mentioned, like that was definitely one of my more played, besides Mario Kart 8, which you just talked about, was probably like my second most played Wii U game. So I like that. Yeah. That first game was a lot of fun, and that was more into the multiplayer then. Where like nowadays it's like it's a little bit harder to like get into the multiplayer out of the gate, just because it was a thing where the people that were playing it were people that were super into it. So like now it's like you go on and just get demolished unless you know what you're doing. So maybe now that like this one like seems like it could have a bigger splash, that might be a little more better. But also now we can also just play Salmon Run and have a fun time.
Exactly.
Fighting weird big salmon monsters that look ridiculous. I like the new one. It's just like a big ass lid that just comes like it's like a saucer that slams down you. It's really dumb, but I love it. It looks fun. That looks fun.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, just reiterating again, all those new maps like look awesome. Some of them, especially like that bridge one.
Yeah,
really cool looking.
Yeah, it's really cool. Some cool maps. Like it's like a mixture of like a bunch of new maps, but also like returning maps from other Splatoon games. I definitely saw one that even I recognized from like the first game, where it's like I think it's like a resort. It's like a resort one where it's like the map is in like a big Splatoon squid shaped pool. And then like once you hit a certain point in the timer, like parts of the stage like lift out of the water, so you have like more stuff to ink over. And it was a cool map. So it's cool. It seems like it'll be a cool mishmash of like best of, but also a bunch of new stuff. So definitely looking forward to
Yeah.
that. That's pretty soon still too. Like, we'll pretty much go to PAX West and then like not
We're
even
gonna come back and it'll be out, right?
Yeah, more or less. It's pretty close to that.
It's like the 15th.
No, I think it's close to that. I think it's like the 8th or 9th, I thought.
Oh wow, nice.
So
That's exciting.
So yeah, pretty soon here. That's pretty exciting for sure. Splatoon 3, baby. The next one we had, and again, another big kind of direct news was
this is the big one.
Pokemon Presents happened. Another one of these, and we got a bunch of like the more typical news and presents where it's like, here's a bunch of mobile game updates that are like okay, sure.
Poke Cafe is still a thing.
Poke
please,
Cafe, you can go feed Mewtwo or some shit. I don't know.
He's a picky customer.
I will say that the Pokemon Unite stuff actually looked kind of interesting because they're doing like a 1 year anniversary. So like they're doing like they've literally added like within like 1 month they've added like 4 new Pokemon and they're adding even more. And like it wasn't in this, but I saw them tweet out that like they're actually doing like a new map. It's like gonna be like another map besides the ones. That's pretty cool. So I might actually maybe next episode maybe I'll by that point that stuff will be in there. So I might jump back in and try it and see what's going on with Pokemon Unite for its 1 year. It's the 1 year anniversary is why they're doing all that.
I like the all Pikachu, nothing but chaos mode is very good.
Oops, all Pikachu modes. The thing that also blew my mind is I should mention that too is like the game has over 70 million players.
Jesus,
that's right. That's insane. Like
that's wild.
Yeah, that game definitely has a crowd now. So like
that is like. God, every time like Pokemon Company just stumbles into something that just makes them so much freaking money, it's unbelievable.
It's pretty insane.
You wonder about when people say like, oh yeah, Pokemon's like the most money franchise in the world. You're like, oh, I wonder how. It's Pokemon Unite,
Pokemon
something crazy like that.
Yeah, Pokemon Go and like trading cards, and it's never actually the actual games that like we're gonna talk about. And like, care about
they
those.
do
It's
extremely well, but like comparatively, it's like the
merchandise
is crazy.
Yeah, merchandise is like astra fucking nomical. It's pretty nuts.
Also, they're adding a not Pokemon to that game. And people, I liked it that a lot of people were like, "What's an Ultra Beast?" Had to be like introduced to the concept of Ultra Beast. It's like they're Pokemon, but they're like not Pokemon.
But they're like not. They're like some weird space shit. I don't know. They did pick a good one though. The big Buzzswole.
Yeah.
The buff mosquito man.
Buff arms.
This looks ridiculous. It's pretty good. Good pick.
They're Pokemon. Also, Pokemon Company. They're just Pokemon.
You're right. They totally are.
Stop calling them other. Don't say that they're not Pokemon.
There's literally Pokemon that are like keychains and garbage bags. That thing can be a Pokemon too.
Yeah, if it goes in a ball, it's a Pokemon. That's it.
Yes, exactly. But they showed all that stuff and it was fine. But the big closer, of course, was we got more.
We get to the real stuff.
We got like a big probably our biggest look at Pokemon. Scarlet and Violet. They gave us the name of the region. They gave us like a bunch of info about how kind of the game works, and they gave us also like the kind of titular kind of gimmick sort of battle mechanic that's going to be here as well. So let me actually I have the trailer linked here, but I should have actually pulled up the website, the Pokemon website, because there's always good nuggets.
There's more details there.
So let me quickly get to that. But yeah, basically, again, they kind of gave us the Paldea region is the name of the region. And here we go. See if it's all the info got buried because all this other Pokemon stuff happens, and I'm like digging through the site. There we go. Visit the site. Live. Scrolling through the site to find the things I wanted to find. I kind of think like the big things they showed again, there was the Paldea region is kind of the region of that we're going to be exploring now. They put out like an actual map of the region like they do, where it's like this big piece of art that like shows all the little kind of points of interest, and there's like some kind of big crazy looking crater in the middle, which is really interesting. You kind of see like the school that you'll be going to in the games. Really cool stuff.
We meet like the general swath of the characters, like the rival character, the friend character, the professor, one of the gym leaders we meet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they're on that footage. We kind of see that we're more than likely actually, compared to other Pokemon games, going to get the legendary earlier than normal, or we're not sure how it'll work. They really go into
potentially right away is like the vibe that I kind of got is like we're just gonna have it out the gate.
But that's because they are kind of your kind of fast travel movement around the region, because they are straight up like motorcycles, are sort of not motorcycles but not motorcycles. At the
this
same
whole
time.
thing, man, I can't. This thing with wheels on its chest is like galloping like a horse with arms, and every time I see it, I'm like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, it looks completely.
But the other one is just wheeling around.
It's like a hover bike, but not a hover bike, because it actually has wheels that work. And then there's and it showed them doing other stuff too, like they were climbing up the sides of like hillsides and mountains. And they also like their like antennas become wings and they can fly around as well. So I'm guessing that'll be more like, that'll probably be what the upgrade over time, right? Like how HMs used to be in Pokemon is like, you might get one of these at the start, and you'll be able to run around and move faster. But then as you probably progress through certain story things or other missions or bits in the game, you can unlock like the okay, now you can drive that, run around, and they'll drive on water, or now they'll fly over the region or whatever.
It's like if they the flied all of the Pokemon that you ride in Arceus into one monstrous wheel chest Pokemon.
Yeah, super bizarre.
It does seem like it's not like a Pokemon that you're going to be battling with, at least not right away. Potentially by the end of the game, it will be a Pokemon that you can maybe battle with, but it is like a companion, which is kind of neat. I think it's a cool idea. I know some people are like really upset about the whole wheel thing. I'm just Josh. I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah, like I kind of this is how I look at it, and then why it didn't bother me as much is like you kind of seen this over like all the footage and how they've kind of shown this game as like there's a lot of like vibes of like there's past and future stuff going on. Like you saw the two professors in the previous trailers where like one, like the lady professor was almost in like a caveman looking outfit, but the other professor for Violet is in like a future tech like Tron looking suit. And these two legendary Pokemon follow that same suit. Of the Violet one is straight up like has jet engines on its legs and has like a jet looking thing, where this one I would look at it as maybe it's a little bit more primitive. So while it looks like it has wheels on it, maybe it's because it's a primitive kind of form. They're not technically wheels. It's maybe actually like part of its body, and that's why it's galloping around rather than it being like wheels, because it's from the past, so to speak, or whatever.
Yeah,
I at least see that. Like, I think that's what they're going for. But it still totally looks ridiculous.
And they have like a casual mode, like they do on the cover box, where like the wheels like look like they're kind of retracted. They're not like jutting out all the time, which is good, probably. yeah, for sure. I want to know, like, obviously, monthly mic check. How are you feeling about Pokemon? Are you excited still? Are you hopeful? Do you think this will be the best Pokemon ever? Will it be the worst Pokemon ever?
I'm pretty excited for this. There's still like definitely questions I have, and I think there's going to be some. It's always one of those things where like I'm excited for it, but it's hard to like not think about how much the discourse there's going to be around stupid things, because that's all ever Pokemon like fans do now. It's annoying and frustrating, but it is what it is, and you can't really get around it anymore. Because something like if we've seen multiple like 3 big trailers for this game, maybe 4, and something they really have not shown, which was a big thing for Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is that was the last game they were coming off of, a big Pokemon game, is that they have not shown like a person like out in the field just throwing a Pokeball at a Pokemon and catching it.
Yeah.
It seems like there's definitely Pokemon like out in the field and you're running around, but it seems like I could see a thing where it still is like other games where you have to just like smack your face into a Pokemon that initiates a battle, or maybe you'll at least be able to like throw your Pokeball like in the vicinity of another Pokemon and start a battle, and then that's how you still have to battle them to catch them, because they really haven't shown the other side of it yet, of like how if you can just do the Legends Arceus, like sneak up behind a Pokemon and throw a ball at their face and try and catch them that way. Like they really haven't shown that yet. And I see a scenario where that's not in, and then that's going to be a thing where people are going to lose their minds because they can't do this little mechanic, because that's just how these games work sometimes, and how Game Freak works sometimes. Where the team that was probably working on this game was probably working on it way before the Legends Arceus team was working on that. They're like different teams, and there probably definitely is overlap and sharing some stuff, but like they're on certain timetables and all this other kinds of stuff that we have no control over. And so like I could see like some of these things like not being there, and that's the thing. Like even though this game has so many other amazing things, like we've seen, like it's fully open. They've mentioned it's fully open world. You can go in any direction. It's not just about the linear path of going and fighting gym leaders now. You can take a gym leader on in any order. Granted, those gym leaders will be it won't be scaling levels necessarily, but you can go like find like who would technically be like the 8th gym leader in line based on like the level, like the highest level or whatever, and go try and fight them first if you really wanted to. This game, that's what it sounds like.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. But they also have mentioned that like that's not kind of the one main story. There's also other storylines you can explore and kind of go after rather than just immediately trying to fight gyms. Like they're and it kind of they didn't really go into the detail of either of those, but it seems like they're probably more likely to be like the evil team, the evil villain or rival team, or whatever they're going to end up being.
Which we haven't seen any of yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen them at all. Like I'm assuming like the thing they showed in this trailer where it's like this, like it looks like a parade car where it's like a bunch of lights and stuff, is some kind of related to that. That's at least what people are guessing and assuming, that it's related to that. And you can also see in some of the other shots of the trailer where like you can see like it's the symbols that are on that car, like on little flags in the background. So like it seems like there will be some kind of maybe team or group associated with that, and that might be another major storyline to follow. And the other one is like maybe tied to like legendary or like Pokemon or some kind of ancient thing going on the island, because like they showed the scene of like your character like climbing, essentially like the open world game equivalent of like climbing a tower and being on top of a tower and looking over a vista. But they also showed you like working with this like researcher, like looking at this like crazy crystal looking flower. So it seems like it might be like tied to whatever the gimmick thing, which I'll talk about in a second, but also like maybe whatever the legendary other legendary Pokemon stuff. Like there's always that kind of third middle legendary in Pokemon games, and maybe that's more tied to that.
Or like the trio, like whatever potential wandering trio could be. Yeah, for me, like I'm genuinely very excited for this game. As someone who like I was going to get Arceus, and then like that week they announced this game, is like, all right, well I guess I'll just wait at this point.
Yeah.
Even though they definitely do seem different.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm just really stoked. The idea of like having a lot of freedom in a Pokemon game is really appealing to me. I think just the formula is what gets me down in like going back to old Pokemon games, or even like Sword and Shield. And I liked Sword and Shield more than I thought I would. I just was like done after I finished it. I didn't really want to go back for the DLC or anything. The gimmick here has me a little concerned, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but like the things I still have questions about. I like how much we don't know. Like we don't know what the team is. I feel like them giving us these like motorcycle legendary Pokemon means like the actual real narrative legendary Pokemon, like there could be multiple of them and we don't know anything about them. We don't even know what they look like. And I think like that's really exciting, because usually that's not the case. They're on the goddamn cover of the box. The idea that there might be some crazy dragon or something when we run into that we don't see until we see it in the game is genuinely really exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
But like on top of that, like obviously ground and grass aside, I think it looks really great. Like I think the character models look great. The Pokemon look great. The cities and stuff, all like the environments and the art design look really great. Like everything's really pretty. I think they're finally like hitting the groove on like what these games should look like. I want to know more about the co-op. Like we asked the question probably a couple episodes ago when some of the details started first coming out of like, if we group up, can I just like throw a Pokemon out and then we start battling just for funsies?
Yep.
Is that like a thing that we can do? I see in the footage, like there's one point where like it looks like it's 4 players and they're doing like a 2v2 battle just like somewhere. And I'm like, okay, like I want to know more about this. That sounds really fun.
Yep.
Yeah, and like, can we do 2v2 battles against random Pokemon and catch Pokemon together? Like, is that a thing that we'd be able to do? Like, those are the things. It wouldn't be like make or break if we couldn't do those things. I think just if that was an option, if you could like group up and play through the whole game with like a buddy the whole way through, I think that could be really, really special.
Yeah, totally. I'm definitely curious about that too. Like you said, the limitations on what you can do in the multiplayer sense of like, yeah, if you could, it looks like you can do up to 4 players in a co-op session. Like, yeah, can you like, group up and go through all of it together? I wouldn't even know how that would work, because like you all just go, all 4 roll up on a gym and fight the gym together and just fucking clap some random gym leader. That would be kind of nuts.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
like let dumb stuff like that happen.
Yeah, it'd be pretty crazy. Yeah, for sure, to like have that potentially happen. There's definitely a lot of stuff like that. We just like, how would that work? Like even if like something maybe like that is not possible, maybe, or like could you have a thing where like one person is fighting and then like the other 3 are like spectating and can like maybe watch the battle or like support in some weird way, because I know like
like do a cheer or something.
Yeah, like is that a thing you can do? Even that would be pretty cool.
Because we did learn in this that raids are coming back.
Yeah.
Which is good, objectively good thing. They were cool.
Yes.
The only they didn't say for sure, but hopefully it's like they let you just take your own damn Pokemon in this. Please just don't like give me preset Pokemon. It's so dumb.
I totally forgot about that. That's right. They did. I'm pretty sure they did in the DLC.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
I'm pretty sure the thing they added in that lets you bring your own Pokemon in it.
Good.
It was more like a gauntlet thing, because that's how you got a bunch of the legendaries that weren't in base Sword and Shield. I'm pretty sure in that version you could bring your own Pokemon into it. This definitely, and this one seems like they definitely took some lessons from that previous one, because like they were saying like you can everyone can go at their own pace. Like you don't have to. It's not like a turn thing where it's like, all right, this person has to do a thing, and then you're just sitting there watching as like everyone's picking their moves, and then everyone's doing a move, and then doing this. It's like, no, everyone's doing everything at once, and I do like that aspect, because that'll make those go faster. And again, I'm assuming if you have a 4-player co-op, I'm assuming you could have a scenario where everybody's in the world doing their own thing, and I guess if somebody runs up to one of those and goes, hey, you're gonna start this thing, I guess it'll ping the people in your game, I guess, to say like, hey, you want to do this with me? And I guess it'll either warp you to that or just go into it. I don't know. Again, there's a lot of questions with that co-op stuff. I'm glad they're doing it.
We might be able to find out more at PAX. Like, that's hopefully.
I'm definitely going to have questions and see if they'll answer some of these questions. Who knows what we'll be able to do in that. That's whatever they're showing at PAX. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Definitely, I would say like it's the game I'm most anticipated about this year, just because of all of these questions we still have about it. It's a very interesting game, because like there are some games I'm looking forward to this year, maybe not even in the realm of Nintendo, but a lot of those like are pretty known quantities, right? Or it's like Bayonetta 3 looks great, but I kind of know what I'm getting into. There's going to be another God of War game, and I know people are miffed about that, but we know what we're probably going to get with that game.
Yeah. A lot of boy.
Yeah, right. A lot of axe throwing or whatever the fuck. But Pokemon, like you can look at that game and like get an idea, but there's still like so many new things to that franchise that like, what are they doing with this? Like they're breaking a lot of conventions finally, that they've started to with some of these more recent games, and this is probably their biggest attempt at that yet. Well, also doing like co-op and online co-op and all these other things. Like how's that all going to go? For their kind of first try at a lot of this stuff, I'm very curious.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, Pokemon, yeah, definitely very excited for Scarlet and Violet.
We should talk about. We gotta talk about
this.
These Pokemon can turn into rocks.
Yeah, they turn into crystals. They terrest. Oh, is on here the terrestalize. Here it is.
Yeah, terrestrialize.
Terestal is what I see here. What is the Terestal Phenomenon? This phenomenon is found only in the Paldea region. It makes Pokemon shine and glimmer like gems. So basically, yeah, it seems like that is kind of your like battle form, where basically once per battle you have this crystal power you can put on your Pokemon, and they'll get all shiny and crystal and get this weird looking crystal crown. And it'll change their type depending on what kind of Pokemon it is and what their typing is and whatever you have it set up to be. So, like, I think the kind of thing they used in the trailer was they showed an Eevee that could be like a grass crystal form or like a water form, and that changes that type. So, like, it could be potentially interesting from that perspective of, like, your Pokemon's weakness. Maybe you can put a crystal form on them that will make them that different thing. But yeah, like, it's
weird, you know.
It's like, weird. Like
I like the idea of type changing, but it is like another aspect of catching Pokemon that is RNG, right? Like apparently they'll come with their Terestal type, and that's you just gotta like look for the one if you really want. I'm sure that's Meowth with a water Terestal type. You gotta like hunt for it, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure they will probably tie that into like the raid stuff. Because like the raid, the footage of the raid is very much like you going up to this big crystal looking thing and fighting a crystal raid Pokemon, and like that's how it also worked in the previous game, like Sword and Shield. Like there was Dynamax but also Gigantamax, which was basically like your giant Pokemon was basically had like a different form, and the only way to get those was going and finding them when they randomly spawned in the raid battle. So I'm sure that's probably will be a thing here too. It's like, oh, you go into this raid, and it's like, oh, you can get this Pokemon with this crystal type, and here, come check this out. And that's probably how it'll go.
Yeah, and then they added the Dynamax soup in the DLC. It's like so they'll probably add like crystal soup or something.
Yeah, something weird. I definitely think they've hit the point where like they've done one too many of these kind of forms.
It's just like this is even more like Mega Evolutions than Dynamax was, right? Because like the thing with Mega Evolutions that was cool is like sometimes the Pokemon will change type in their Mega Evolved form.
They'll have extra types and change their stats. Like I still think that's like they should have personally for me, like I personally would have rather them just keep doing that than try to make something new, because these new things are just like lesser or not as interesting versions of that, right?
Yes, agreed.
But they're trying. They're doing this. Whatever it is, what it is at this point.
The type change concept is cool. I think like all the crystal stuff is kind of silly. I think if you could just like type change and like it was maybe like each Pokemon had like 3 different variants of it, and like they all looked different, kind of like the regional variations and stuff. Like maybe leaning more into that. I think that stuff is really cool. Like we saw Wooper. The new regional Wooper who looks great. Wooper. He's covered in mud and he's just a happy little guy.
Chaco Wooper, goated.
I'm
glad they're doing more of those. I like.
Yeah, that stuff's so great.
When they do those regional forms, they've always been really cool. I'm sure. Like again, because I didn't immediately look a lot of this, but a lot of the stuff in this confirmed some leaks that happened for this game as well. And somebody, I think this happens a lot with Pokemon games, to be fair. And I want to say this is like a similar thing happened with Sword and Shield, where there's some person at the ESRB or whatever just has like an early copy for like rating stuff, and they just like took in a bunch of images and put them up, and people just saw them and are kind of like whatever, because like Pokemon there's always this lead up with every new generation of Pokemon where like a bunch of stuff comes out and like 80% of it is fake. But then there's just a small bit of like what they either get one thing right or they actually have something legitimate, and then all bets are off, and then whatever this person says is the key. And they put out a big leak that had a lot of this stuff that was only like the crystal forms, talking about the the you could go anywhere, but the gyms are certain level. Like there is still technically like a level to each gym, and they talked about that stuff. I don't remember a lot of stuff because again it wasn't like it wasn't a lot of images. There was some like there was some images of like the gym leader that we now saw in the trailer. It's like that's like the big scarf over their face, and like one of the friend characters that has like the red and the pokeball hair, the young girl, like there was an image of her that leaked. So like so it definitely was like legitimate stuff in there. I don't remember everything that was in there because I admittedly did not look at a lot of it because I was like, whatever, who knows, whatever this is. And I don't want to spend all my time looking at leaks at the end of the day. But that stuff is out there too, unfortunately. But that just kind of is the nature sometimes with the Nintendo stuff. I feel like they definitely can have a lot of leaky stuff, especially when it comes to Pokemon. But
yeah.
Regardless of that stuff,
genuinely excited.
Yeah,
for
definitely my probably my most anticipated like new release this year right now is Scarlet Violet, just because there's again, like we all talked about, a lot of new stuff, a lot of new questions, a lot of new stuff I want to know about this game.
It's about to be a heyday for me because we're going to get this, and then presumably next up is probably DLC for this, but then Black and White remakes, which is my favorite Pokemon.
Yeah,
so I'm very excited to go back to that.
I'm definitely curious. I'm definitely curious if Arceus, Legends Arceus, was like a thing that did well enough for them to maybe
it's sold incredibly well.
Yeah, it sold incredibly well. I'm curious if they maybe want to try and follow it up again, but also like expand on that idea. But I also don't know. I don't know if they'll go back to that or not. It was fun for what it was. Like I did not like 100% complete it because I know there's like a lot of post game stuff you can do in that. I didn't do any of that. I did like a lot of it. It was fun for what it was. One thing I hope they maybe figure out is, like you said, the visuals I think definitely are a step up from even that for this game. But like boy, Legends Arceus sure was a frame rate mess. So I'm a little fearful of that for this game too. Like I think there will be some not great stuff in that regard, but I definitely agree with like the game from a visual standpoint just looks a lot nicer. They're definitely getting there, like you said.
Is with like because in the wild area you had like the random people around. It seems like they're dropping that, which is definitely a good call in favor of just having you have co-op if you want to do it.
Yep.
So ideally, like when you're just running around by yourself and looking at Pokemon everywhere, hopefully everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And the whole game, you're not like cutting from third person camera back to fixed camera in this game. It's all just
it's seamless.
free form cameras. So I'm hoping that has that consistency maybe helps everything.
Yeah, agreed. But I do agree, like you said. I think overall this game definitely looks better than pretty much any game.
Pokemon just looks so good.
Pokemon looks really nice. I think they've a lot of the previous games did not really have much in terms of interesting lighting, where this game actually shows like a lot more interesting. Like you can see sunsets and reflection on water and other stuff like that. That was like not at all really in other Pokemon games in a good way. So it's nice to see that they are doing that at least. So I'm definitely again excited for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Please be good.
Yes. I think please. Two more quick little drops we had also, which I haven't played yet. But Kirby's Dream Buffet came out. That's like the Kirby racing on
giant
cakes and candies and ice cream and stuff. Sort of Fall Guys-esque from what I've seen. I watched some people play it. And it definitely hits that, like you're kind of racing down this track, but then you're like collecting like strawberries or something and like different fruits, and there's like almost like Mario Kart style power-ups where you like break through boxes and get little power-ups while you're racing. But then like once you're done racing, it'll then like shift into like a weird little mini game where you're either trying to like knock each other off a map or you're like collecting things or like beating up enemies and stuff. So it like kind of bounces around a little bit.
It seems like this was announced a week before it came out.
Yeah,
or like 2 weeks before it came out.
Yeah, because
it was out.
Yeah, they just kind of like tweet dropped it, and then just it's like it's coming out later, and like just didn't give us a date, even though it was only like 2 weeks later or something like that. Yeah, it was very weird.
It just looks like such an acid trip of a video game. Also,
it's weird. It's only a $15 game too. To be fair, like
I thought it was free. I was like,
it's just $15.
That might be too much for me. Hey, Kirby got one excellent video game this year, and that's all that matters.
It's 100%. And then alongside that, pretty much the same week, we got Wave Race N64 from the 64.
Am I mistaken, or was this like announced at like 11:30 p.m. Eastern time?
It was. That's the thing, though. They usually do that weird announcement time for like these like online games. They just randomly announce them like super late at night for whatever reason. I think it might just be like a Nintendo Japan thing. I don't know.
Yeah, true.
Why they do it that late, but it's super weird. But yeah, that's out. I know like people like that game.
Raise a glass to Don Casanova from Easy Allies. He's so stoked.
And Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb, he's super into it as well. I've listened to him lose his mind about it. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, like people like that game. Like I definitely played that when I was younger. I would not say I was super nostalgic about it by any means, but like I played it. I agree that
I didn't like that game. I can say that definitively.
The water looked nice, I guess. Yeah, sure. For that era of stuff. And yeah, hey, they're continuing that once a month Nintendo train, I guess.
The trickle is real.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's interesting indeed, but yeah, I think that's pretty much all the news. There was a lot of news. I was not expecting that much news in August for Nintendo, but there you go.
Yeah. Okay, we do have to just, September could be a September Direct.
Okay.
Bingo card is still on the table, everyone.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right.
Wario might fart.
He might give us a good one for September. Yeah, we'll have to see. It's been an interesting year in that regard for Nintendo, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, I feel like they have to. At this point, it's like building. They got to talk about Zelda. They got to give this goddamn game a name, man. Like, I'm losing my mind.
I don't know. I think they could go for the rest of this year and not give it a name.
They could, and
they probably will.
It boggles me.
That's kind of where I'm at with that game. Like, trust me, I'm with you in excitement level, but like I'm
trying not to think about it, but every time it like kind of creeps its way back into my mind. Like they didn't even give it a name. What do you think it's gonna be? Skyward Fall? Like, I don't know.
Skyfalls.
Skyfall?
Give me a name.
Legend of Zelda Skyfall?
Yeah, I know. But they also totally understand, like, if they gave a name, that would feed you and Zelda people for like weeks and months.
Yeah, that would give me like the 6 months I need to get to the next update.
Exactly, right? Like, they know that, but like, I think really they know they can just hold on to that, and when they truly know that game is ready, then they will just give us a big blowout. That's kind of what I'm feeling. Yeah. I could be wrong, and we could totally get a September Direct because Nintendo will do whatever the fuck they want.
I feel like they will do some kind of fall Direct, but whether I think they'll talk about Zelda, like they'll mention it as like, hey, it's going. They might not give it a name or anything, but. Yeah. I do think we'll get a fall Direct. Maybe not September. Maybe they'll do October this year. Maybe after Splatoon, like that last week of September, we could be in a good spot. But it just feels like it's time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially since there's also been those rumors of that Metroid Prime remake that should be later this year. Like if that's truly happening, yeah, they should do a thing where they can announce that.
Yeah, they shouldn't just tweet about that. I really don't think that. I think it is worth more than that, personally.
For sure, I'm with you. And yeah, and like I'd be totally down for one because I'd also love to hear they always, like usually with those fall ones they give us little tidbits of things that might be next year, and I'm definitely curious. Obviously we know Zelda at some point,
but they've got multiple games locked and loaded.
There's still plenty of other stuff. Yeah, they could just drop on us.
They've got two Advance Wars games that are done and have been done for like 6 months.
Yeah, we really haven't talked about that, but you're on this podcast. But you're right. That's still just delayed, huh?
Yeah, some people got that because they pre-ordered it and they just had it installed and they played it. It's done. Like,
really? I didn't even know that. I didn't even know they actually play it. Or
they pulled it off. Like they pulled it after people started being able to activate it, but those people that got it have it. So, like
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm definitely for a fall direct at the end of the day. But I just don't know. Because like again, we were so sure of that summer direct, like a lot of people, and they just didn't do it. And then it's just like,
it feels like
what are they going to do? I don't
waiting
know.
for something,
Yeah, they want to have that big beat. I think they've learned that they just want that kind of big thing for a direct.
This is definitely, to be fair, and it's not just Nintendo. Like this is like a top 3 most awkward year for video games.
Sure.
Like Midnight Sun had a date and just disappeared.
It just disappeared.
Yeah.
You're right.
Stuff is happening.
It
is all weird.
We're still definitely in that come down phase of.
This is like the pandemic hit this year very hard for sure.
And it's still affected a lot of people, and it seems like that gave a lot more people leniency of being like, we know, so they can do these delays, which kind of like I'm happy for those people. Granted, like who knows if that makes it any easier or harder on the people making those games, but it seems like it's nice that they're at least letting this happen. And I will say, like, it has been an awkward year, but I still think there's been plenty of decent to good video games. I definitely think there's been a lot of good indie stuff, in particular.
Yes.
A lot of indie stuff I like this year, which I actually think is worth talking about now because I've been playing some video games. That's right.
Yeah.
Playing some video games, some indie ones for sure. That's kind of been the last few things. But I've also been playing Alive, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I've not beaten it yet, but I've gotten pretty deep in. The first one I want to shout out, or I just want to give a quick shout out to, we did viewpoints of this, me and Quinn, is Frogun. Frogun is a cool little, like, kind of retro 2D platformer. It's basically like Captain Toad-esque. A little bit harder, though. Like, I would say it's much harder than that. But it has that, like, that was immediately what came to mind because it has that diorama level design of, like, you can literally just, you get plopped down to a level and you can just spin the camera around and, like, see the whole level as, like, a little diorama that you're going around. But the whole concept is you are this young girl whose parents went missing and they are, like, archaeologists. Can't talk. Archaeologists. There we go. And they've gone missing, and you have your Frogun, which is literally a talking gun that is also a frog that can shoot its tongue out like a grappling hook, and you like grapple on to areas and different things to like leap yourself and launch yourself around the levels and stuff. And it's really fun. It's definitely harder than I thought it was going to be. You can see in that viewpoints, I definitely died a lot. But it's really fun. It just has like a really cool vibe. Like it has you can tell this person was like someone around our age because like in the games it inspired them. Because like when you pick up the little bubble icons in the map that like give you like kind of pointers or little tips, the frog talks to you and straight up just Banjo Kazooie like speak of blah, 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 blah. Like the frog just does that the whole time they're talking to you. And like the game visually looks like kind of PS1, like almost like Mega Man Legends looking like visual style, like how the characters look, where it's kind of chibi and they have kind of big eyes, and it very much evokes that visual style of those Mega Man Legend games. But it just has like a unique feel to it in terms of how the platforming around and like there is like a simpleness to it of like, all right, you can just jump across these platforms, grab coins, grab like various collectibles and do other things, but then there's that like kind of like next level of like clearly they want like speed runners to get into it because you can, there's all kinds of like tricks you can do where you can, use the frog gun to kind of like grapple on to a point and skip parts of levels if you want to, or use it to like you can bounce off this little mushroom and kind of if you time it right you can grab something across the way and you'll get warped right to or zapped right to it with like the little grapple hook kind of thing. So there's a lot of cool stuff in there like that. Like I definitely appreciate it from that perspective, even if I'm not the greatest at it. But it's a lot of fun, and it just has like a cool vibe to it. And it just is one of those games that just like immediately the visuals of it just stood out from a lot of other indie stuff recently.
Yeah, I'm watching the viewpoints right now. It's very cool looking.
Yeah, I like the look a lot. The music's nice too. It's on. Yeah, again, I've been playing on Switch. It's on other stuff too, but that's mainly where I've been playing. It's super good.
Yeah.
Anything you've been playing?
The main thing on the Switch, I bought Tales of Vesperia a long time ago. After I had purchased it in other places as well. I recently went through and finished it again. This is not a first time through. Of course.
Your first time on Switch?
Yeah. And, I'll say the Switch version's great.
Nice.
It's like comparable to like the original 360 version. So it's 30 FPS on the field, walking around and stuff, and then 60 FPS in combat. So it runs really well, looks great. And it is a totally very good way to play that game. It kind of makes me want all of those PS2 to PS3 era Tales games to be on Switch. I mean, they should just be brought back. General, like Tales of Xillia is still only on PS3. It's just in that big hodgepodge of games that are just marooned on the PlayStation 3.
Marooned on there,
with Metal Gear Solid 4, and just like so sad that they're only there.
They'll be streaming on a PlayStation soon. Sad.
Yeah. So yeah, in a terrible way with no DLC. But yeah, it's still great. Just going through that again, really appreciating it. I like every time I replay stuff now, I try and like find something I didn't notice before, or some level of appreciation of a thing I didn't notice before. And I had, because I finished it a couple weeks ago, I had this realization just like 2 days ago. I was like, oh wow, there's no religion in that game. Like I just had this like revelation, because in the Tales games, religion often plays like a pretty big part in it, of how they are perceiving. Often it's like technological powers are kind of perceived in a godlike way, very JRPG. But in Tales of Vesperia, and again, it is so like it's never addressed, like it's not talked about, but like it's like a post modern society where it is like they fully are dependent on technology. So it is like everyone has kind of transitioned away from belief. And it's funny because at some point around the midpoint of the game, you are like looking for these creatures that are like ancient monsters that can speak and are intelligent. And you find like a shrine that they think is like in thousands of years ago, like the people of this region like worshipped this particular creature as like a god. And that's like they kind of comment on how like it's strange how they worshipped it, or it's strange how they didn't really understand the nature of it. And like it's one of those things, like delayed revelation days later. I was like, oh wow, yeah, there's no god in that game, period. Like no one believes in God or thinks God is real or religion is real. And it is like fascinating. Just like the idea of that is fascinating to me, because that's such a crutch, I think, in a lot of storytelling. Is like the people who are zealots are terrible,
they're terrible, or it's got to be a JRPG because you fight God at the end. And at the end of Tales of Vesperia, you just fight another person who has like conflicting ideals with you, which is way more interesting, I think. And yeah, it was just like one of those things. Like, I think if you went into that game and thought about that, like going through the whole story, it would totally change your perspective on it. So it's just one of those things of like, all right, next time I play it, like, this is all I'm going to be thinking about is like how this is like that post religion world that, people kind of idolize, is like, is this better? Is this worse type deal? Super interesting. But yeah, Tales of Vesperia is still great. Other than that, like, I also played Multiverses, which you talked about last episode. Hell yeah.
Which is good, I think it's like a pretty good game.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird.
There's just parts of it that are hard to like for me to tell you why I think it's weird, but it's not bad. It's weird that like there are classes. It took me a little while to realize like there are different classes, like Overwatch style, and that LeBron James is a brawler.
Yeah, LeBron James is a brawler. Bugs Bunny is a mage.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny being a mage. I could not let that go. It's so funny to me. Yeah, oh my god,
it's super bizarre how they classify that stuff. But it is, it's fun. It's just it's fun, and it definitely seems like it was very popular. We usually don't talk, even though like MPD is always interesting. We usually don't talk about it too much on here. But that was the best selling video game for July, which is like crazy to think about because it's free to play. So that's just from like some like founders, I guess, beginner pack or whatever. That's why it blew up because of that, and that's pretty crazy. I know Evo, it was pretty popular at Evo, and they just announced like on top of like 2 characters coming this season already, there's 2 more. And they just like announced when it officially fully launched, season 1.
Yeah, literally the gremlin from Gremlins.
Yeah, it's just a gremlin from Gremlins and Black Adam from like DC and stuff.
Black
and it's
Adam.
Just like, sure, what a combo of characters, I guess. Whatever, it's so weird. But that's what this game is capable of. And I think it shows that they're like, it's cool that they're like willing to go that weird with it, where you're just a fucking gremlin.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I'm down for that. Cool, yeah, do some weird shit.
I don't have like the most recent numbers, but I remember seeing like, at least this is like from the beginning of August, like 5 million unique players in Multiverses. Wow. Like, and that was, almost a month ago at this point. It blew up in a big way that I'm sure that the people that are working on it are pretty stoked about.
Yeah, they can keep doing stuff.
It's a cool game. It's like you had brought up before, the team aspect of it does make it unique. Mm-hmm. The healer types that can like pull people back from the ledge and stuff is pretty neat. I will say like the monetization of the game is as rough as you should expect.
There's definitely a lot to it.
I think it would be like $80 to buy and unlock all characters. Like if you want to just have the full roster out the gate, I like did the numbers.
Yeah,
and that's too much.
It's only gonna get more, clearly.
Yeah, but I think like maybe $5 to $7 per new character that comes out isn't terrible.
Right.
And it's basically it does the League of Legends model of like if you play enough, you'll get enough in-game currency to buy a character.
Unlock characters. Yeah.
Which is probably the safer bet, but I
think they rotate free characters too, where it's like every week. It's like, I don't know if it's every week or it's like every few weeks. It's like a couple characters are the free ones for that week, and you can just try them out, and then it'll rotate to another set another time.
Yeah, and that's also very League of Legends. So I would like to definitely like have a group and see how the game feels in that environment. And I think it would be cool if maybe when more characters are in it, there's like an 8-player mode, kind of like Smash Brothers. I think that would be really cool. Mm-hmm. But potentially like 4v4 or 2v2v2v2. But who knows?
Yeah, doing more. Yeah, those would definitely be interesting for sure. And they have like bigger. I know they have like a thing where you can see like there's like bigger and smaller versions of maps, depending on like the player sizes and stuff. So I've definitely seen that in the game already. I'm definitely curious. Like, I think the thing that piqued my interest was like some point in season 1 they're gonna do like an arcade mode. So it'll be like a more like, I don't know if it's gonna be like a full on story mode thing, or it'll just be like you play through this mode as a character, and then maybe there's a little bit of story there. I don't know. I'm curious what that is. Like that would be a thing that maybe will get me to play a little bit more of that for sure. Once that's in.
I did appreciate that in training mode you can play as any of the characters.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'll definitely check more of that at some point. It's a weird game.
That's all I've been
kind of cool.
Playing, really.
Cool. I got two other big games I've been playing as of recently. I think another indie darling that I think kind of took over a lot of game discussion the past weeks is Cult of the Lamb. I've been playing a bunch of that. We don't have a viewpoints of that yet, but I think we might do one pretty soon, potentially. But I am enjoying it quite a lot more than I even thought I would. To be completely honest, it definitely was a little bit of a surprise to me, just because I think when they first revealed this, I can't remember exactly when it was revealed, but I think it was at some kind of game event thing like this. And I think they didn't really show too much gameplay when they first revealed it. Maybe that's probably what it was. Because you kind of, first time I saw it, I was definitely had that immediate reaction of just like, oh, this is just like some weird, like, edgelordy hot topic tier looking stuff where it's like, here's these cutesy characters, but they're evil and they're killing stuff and it's edgy. Ugh. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of
happy tree friends energy.
Yes,
I get
like,
you.
There's kind of that tier to it where so the initial reaction is definitely like, oh, I'm good actually on this. No thanks. So I definitely was not on my radar as too much. But fast forward to I think like a week or two ago when it released and a bunch of reviews came out, and like I saw a lot of positive review people talking about it, and game industry people like, yeah, this is really awesome, and it is like a kind of sim, kind of sort of. A lot of people said Animal Crossing, but I think like even that's like it's not that much Animal Crossing. I think it could be something closer like maybe Stardew Valley, even though I've not played a lot of that, but I think it's more of that tier of sim. But also like there is that aspect, but also it's just kind of a roguelite. Like I would say more than anything, it is a roguelite. Like I feel like a lot of people talked up that sim stuff a lot more when in reality, like I feel like that I've played it, I put like 10-ish hours in now, and it's I've been doing way more like going on runs, fighting enemies and doing that kind of stuff rather than the sim stuff. Not to say the sim stuff isn't important. Like it's pretty integral. Like it's pretty both parts are pretty important. I would just say like the sim stuff is more. It's basically like the replacement for in other roguelites where you have like all kinds of various skill trees and upgrade paths and stuff. Like the sim aspects kind of replace a lot of that stuff, where you have things like, hey, I can, in your cult or your kind of village area that you're upgrading, you have like a big statue that you're upgrading over time, that is giving you basically your cultist members that you bring in. As you'll find them out on runs, or like you can save them on runs, and basically they'll be in your you can bring them back to your cult area, and then you can set them to do a bunch of different tasks. So there's one thing where you have like a big statue in the center of your area, and they can kind of pray to it and give you this currency that you're accruing over time, and that lets you buy and upgrade stuff for that actual like sim area. That basically, that involves things like, you can buy like a little farmhouse, and then you can plant, you can plant things in that farmhouse area, like basically straight up you put a little house down and it makes a little diamond area, and then things you plant in that area where it'll be like, food and different things to then feed to the villagers so they stay hungry, because you are like, there is that kind of part of keeping the members of your cult happy in there. So there's like a hunger meter and like a sick meter, and also like a big faith meter. Faith meter is kind of the main one. But you can do farm and set up things where like if you set the little farmhouse, then plant things in that area, then your actual cultists will like go into that area and plant stuff for you and water them and do things actively for you while you're out on runs and stuff. So that's kind of like, it's kind of doing a lot of streamlining of that. If you're in the shadows.
My light went off. Sorry.
That's pretty funny. You went to the darkness.
Oh, I didn't have it plugged in. It was on battery. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah,
I was worried my power went out.
Yeah, just like, just drop from the call. That's pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of it is like, out the gate for that village stuff is like kind of streamlining the processes of a lot of that stuff. So like, you'll have things where the cultists will, they all have, you can name them, which I've done a lot of because it's dumb and fun.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, like cause you'll have like, I have a little frog man. He's named Froggers. I've had a lineage of bunny villagers, and I've just named them Bun Bun. And let's just say they've gone away for various reasons because of cult-like things. So now I'm at Bun Bun the Fourth. So we won't talk. Maybe we won't necessarily talk about how
the elder god desires Bun Bun.
Yeah, maybe some have been sacrificed. Maybe one was a dissenter, and I put him in prison for a little while, and then I thought he was okay, and then he just kept dissenting, and then he just left. Maybe another one lived to an older age and then just died, and you came back from a run and he's a corpse just in your village, and you have
nice.
to literally make a burial area for him. So there is like there is definitely stuff to manage with that management sim aspect, but it's not like too overbearing. Like I've not had a lot of times where it's been like a thing where like I'm out on a run and all of a sudden like a bunch of terrible things are happening and I have to immediately stop my run and go back and it stops things. Granted, I'm on like the what is like I guess like the more normal difficulty, or it has developer recommended difficulty more or less when you first start up the game. There are harder difficulties beyond that, so maybe in those ones you might be more of a thing. And there's definitely upgrades that kind of allude to that, because another big thing is like you have like a little like church house that you'll go into, and you have like a bunch of different things you can do in there. So you can like put on a sermon, and when you put on a sermon, you'll like depending on how many villagers are like cultist members you have, and depending on the individual level they have, because they can level up as well, you'll get like a certain amount of currency each time you do a sermon. Then that goes into like a skill tree that is basically how you get a lot of different things on your run. So like you can get like different curses, which are like kind of various things that like apply to the weapons you get on each run. So let's say like some of the ones I have now where it's like normally you just have like a normal sword that does normal swipes, but now I'm getting swords that have like they're like cursed, and they're like a skeleton sword, and when I defeat enemies with it, it'll make a little ghost appear out of that corpse, and a ghost will like home in onto another enemy and attack them. Or I can get like poison ones, or like other things like that. I can get like little special abilities where you shoot like a wave of tentacles like out of the ground. But I've also had variants of those nows where it's like now that instead of the tentacles, they're ice like spikes, and they'll hit enemies and freeze the enemies that it hits. So you start unlocking variants like that through that skill tree that you get through like the little church house. The other thing you also get from that are as you level up your villagers, they give you like these little like pieces of like a tomb looking thing, and basically it just leads to these other things called like doctrines or other things, and that kind of ties into like like you said, like sacrificing villagers for the greater good. That's one of the things you can do, but you can also do things like I'm just going to put on a big feast, and we're all going to feast together, and depending on like the amount of food I have saved up, or other little like collecting various things on runs, like different like resources and whatnot, you can put on one of those, and that raises your overall faith, because you want to keep your faith up, because otherwise your villagers will start getting upset or wanting to leave, or then going full on into dissension, where they'll get like big red angry eyes and run around with the speakerphone and make all your other villagers upset because they're speaking blasphemous terms about how you're a bad cult leader.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, they can do that stuff, and then you have various things you can do. So like if you wanted to, you could just maybe sacrifice that one because he's speaking poorly of you, or you can set up a little like prison, like wooden prison thing where they'll be stuck in this prison for a while, so they can't keep doing like speaking badly, and then you can go over to them and re-educate them to your cult.
I was gonna bring up re-education too. Yes, you gotta pray the gay way,
Yeah. You kind of are doing that. You can do it like every day. You just go up to them and do it, and they're just like,
oh my god. Yeah. See, I'd only, similar to you, had only really heard about like the simmy parts of it, which sounded cool. I just like it was. I didn't know if it was something I would jump into, but the roguelike elements of it sound really appealing to me for sure.
And that's the thing, like. There's a lot of that, and all the sim stuff feeds into that kind of combat loop. Like it's pretty simple, because basically all it really is like you have a choice of there's a couple of different kinds of weapons, and you have like a special ability you get, and then basically like the weapons are like you have a sword, there's a big battle axe, and then there's like claws, there's like a bigger hammer, which is like it's like much slower on your hit. But you can kind of like hold down the button and kind of like use the joystick to kind of like do like a twin stick aim of it, so you can kind of like hold it and then smash it when an enemy kind of runs up at you. There's like little daggers and stuff too, so it's varying things. And then again, like I said, like if you upgrade that path through doing sermons and getting that experience, then you get like variants of those. So you can have claws that are like bony and like do different like status effects and things like that. And then you just have a special ability where it's like you have like a big AoE push that pushes enemies away. You have that little tentacle blast you can shoot. You have like a little kind of homing like lasers, like not like lasers, but they'll shoot like little energy bolts out and they'll like home in onto enemies as you shoot them out. You can get like the variants of those as well with like ice or the like other various things like that. There's a bunch of other stuff like too, like there's like little cards you unlock as you go on runs, and then you can pick them up like from a little shopkeeper equivalent, and those will have various effects like, oh, this gives you more hearts on a single run, or this will give you like a special like black heart that like when an enemy hits you, it does damage to all enemies in the room. And so there's a bunch of stuff like that too that you can kind of find, and on top of the just like basic abilities you have. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff there in terms of like I would say it's like it's almost near 50-50 with kind of the stuff you can do. Like you can definitely spend more time on runs doing stuff, or spend more time like doing stuff in your village, because you can even do the Animal Crossing-esque stuff in your bunch of like finding little decorations that you can unlock. You can find blueprints of like little like light posts or like pathing looking things, and like put that down in your place too. And like villagers will sometimes ask you to do stuff like that, where sometimes they'll come up to you with a little quest and be like, hey, can you put little decorations out, or like, hey, my brother got lost in the woods and can you go find him? And then you'll go on a run, and you have, when you go into like different rooms on runs, it'll give you options of like, hey, if you go this way, you'll get like resources like wood or stone to build like houses or something, or on this path you can find like a follower you can save, and then when you come back from your run, they'll be like at your place and you can bring them into your cult. And there's shops and things like that too. And like doing this little quest for villagers will then like continue to level them up, and they'll get more levels, which results in them being able to give you like more XP basically in those different like things I mentioned earlier. But so yeah, I think it works. I think it's largely a roguelite, so that's definitely what's been keeping me playing for sure, is like those aspects of it, and kind of having that roguelite dopamine of like going on a run and it went really well, and you come back and you can like buy all these little upgrades or do all these little things, but then it's that little, instead of it kind of just being like picking menus from options from a menu, you're doing like little kind of Animal Crossing-esque Stardew Valley sim stuff. Like, all right, now I'm gonna go pick these berries and pick some pumpkins, and then go over to my little cooking station and make a bunch of food for them so they're not hungry. Or I'm gonna go do a sermon or put on like this little thing, and then that'll raise their faith and give me more XP that I can maybe get a upgrade ability for. So it has a really nice loop to it that I'm enjoying a lot more than I thought. I will say I'm playing it on PlayStation 5 instead of the Switch, because unfortunately I've heard the Switch version does not run especially great, which is definitely a bummer, because I think it would be a fun game on there. Yeah, I've heard it's definitely it's a little framey, maybe some bugs as well, and also kind of some not great load times. That's kind of what I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard the same.
Yeah, I've even heard, because I'm playing on PlayStation 5, I've even heard like towards the later parts of the game, there's still some potential bugs even in that version, but they're working on it. Like they've definitely said like, hey, we're patching the game and have future plans for it. And like they even I even saw like it's already broken like 1 million total people purchasing the game across everything. So that's pretty awesome. I think they probably maybe didn't expect that even.
Yeah, I think so for sure. So, that's great.
It's great.
I'm sold, honestly. I'm probably gonna play it.
Yeah.
I told myself I need to play Stray. So I bought it. It's $30. I need to.
Stray's
I had to play. I haven't played it at all yet. I just I'm waiting.
I will say like it's only like 5 hours. So don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just need to sit down.
Feel like,
and maybe I'll do that like tomorrow.
God,
just play that.
Yeah, it's very good.
Ready.
It's very good. I think I did finish that. Not related. It's obviously not on Switch or anything, but it's a good game.
Yeah. And then after Stray, then I will go to.
Yeah, I think you would like it as a fellow roguelite fan.
Sounds good to me.
It's definitely checking the boxes of those, but also like has those fun twists of like having the life simmy kind of farming simmy kind of aspects to it. They blended them very well, I think.
I think somebody's setting fireworks off outside my house right now. Also,
interesting. I don't hear it, so that's fun.
I wasn't sure if it was thunder at first. I checked the weather and it's like, okay, no, but yes,
somebody's just
some explosions are happening out there.
They're really excited. It's August 20th, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
Something like that. Last game I've played a lot of Live Alive. There's a few points of that on our site where we took a
we looked at it.
Yeah, we looked at it. It's a pretty good extensive look at just one little section of that game. That's the near future where it's probably, I would say, the anime as fuck section for sure.
Yeah.
And I will say that continued with like I played through the rest of that one. And
how was the big robot parts?
The big robot
Were
parts.
they good?
The big robot parts pretty fun. You get your cool. You get little story spoilers, but you not only get the cool robot parts, but you get like the typical like somebody sacrifices themselves to get the robot going. And then that pushes you to go beyond your limits, and then you're able to pilot the robot. And then you have the scene, and it has like a thing where like like in that section where it's like the big open city, and you can kind of walk around it a little bit. You are doing that, but as the big robot, and there's a bunch of like planes and like tanks from this like military group that show up, and you're just like going through and like just decimating them because you're the big robot, and like you're like super overpowered in the robot suit. And then you have like a big final fight. That's pretty fun and weird. And kind of fucked up actually.
The best.
Yeah, but it's
checking all the boxes.
Yes, it's the most anime of anime parts of that game for sure.
How many storylines have you done so far?
I'm 6 of 8. I have 2 left. Okay. So since I did that one, I did 2 more. I did the Wild West one, which is admittedly my least kind of favorite one, admittedly, because it's a little weird and it's also very short. But on the other end of that, then I did the present day one, and that one was awesome because it's like I'm gonna set up like a fighting game, and you're like, and it's like still that kind of more tactical placing your character in the right way style, but basically the whole thing of it is your character that you're playing as learns the moves of the opponents you're fighting as they do the moves on you. So like they'll have special. So it's like almost like fighting
Taskmaster
game. Yeah, it's almost like it's almost part fighting game, part Mega Man, because you want to like if you pick a certain one, that person will have moves that are vulnerable are more effective rather on like other fighters you end up going against. And that was really cool, like discovering that of just being like, since I fought this dude, the Japanese kung fu master, and got this move, I went and fought this like Muay Thai looking boxer person, and had this move that was way more effective because I could stay at range and fight them from a distance, and instead of having them come in or now I'm fighting this bulky tanky wrestler dude who's kind of just looks like Hulk Hogan. Shows the age of this video game, by the way, with that one. But since I did, that was like one of the later ones I ended up doing. So by that point, I had moves of like 4 other bosses I fought, and it gave me a bunch of counter moves. So basically, when he would run up to me and do a move, I would immediately just like counter him with some move and just be on top of doing my normal attack. So it's a cool setup for that one, because it's literally just like it's literally only like 5 or 6 fights. They're just like these one-on-ones with these boss level enemies, and then when you fight them, you'll just get their move from them, and then you take those moves to fight the other ones. So it was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. The Wild West one was the other one I did, and the only reason I didn't really like that because it was a little weird. I ended up having to go back to a previous save because it was not fully clear of like how it worked, because basically the whole premise is like you're a Wild West cowboy who shows up to this town and goes into a bar for a drink, and then you cause a ruckus, and then this evil bandit that was causing a ruckus in there before, you stopped him, and then he runs off to go warn his outlaw gang to come back here and fight you. So then basically it's set up like in thing where it's like you have eight days or like 8 like chimes of a bell to like prepare for this battle, and then you get to like go around this little western town and pick up all these items, and then you can take those items back to these villagers that are in this little tavern and go like, hey, set up these traps, and it kind of just lets you do it however you want. But there is like a very specific way you're supposed to do that, where it's like, oh, you need to give this person this item, and you need to give these person this item on like the 3rd bell. Otherwise, if it gets to 8 bells, they will have not set up this trap in time. So I did it once, and that dictates how the big final battle will go for that. Because if you set it up properly, what will happen is you'll end up having just the boss and like 1 or 2 enemies. Or if you do it poorly, you'll have like a boss and like 20 enemies with the boss. So you kind of like will lose if you don't set it up properly. So that's what happened the first time through, and I was just like, I clearly did something wrong, because like there's no way I can do this, because it's not a thing where, you know, it's not a traditional JRPG segment like some of the other ones where we're like, oh, I could just go leave this town and go like grind and fight random battles and maybe level up my characters a little bit. This is just this segment where you have to find these items, set the traps, and then you have the fight. And then once you do that fight, it's done. Like that's all that segment is. So like once you know how that is, like then it's fine. But it was weird.
I really love that conceptually, though.
Yes,
it's very point and click adventure-y.
Yes,
so
totally.
I can appreciate that. Definitely sounds like a 90s thing to do for sure.
100%. Yeah, like it's like taking like a JRPG like turn-based battle system, but also making it like an adventure game, like puzzle solving thing at the same time. And that's what like a lot of these has felt like. Those 2 in particular, like I think like the biggest examples I've had so far were like some of the other ones like you saw with like the near future one, where it's like it's a little bit more JRPG-esque of like you can run around and go start battles. And I did the one I did earlier before that was like the Chinese kind of Empire one was similar, where like it was straight up like you're just running from, you know, segment of map to segment of map, and there's enemies walking around and you can just like initiate battles and do stuff. And yeah, I do really like the game. It's just it is a very weird thing. I understand why it has like a cult following, because it's such a different thing compared to what like JRPGs generally are. So I can see why some people maybe are not super into it, because it's not a typical experience like that, but like kind of paints itself as like a big JRPG, right? But I personally, as somebody who I like JRPGs generally still, but like I can be kind of tired of the ones that very much strictly follow that kind of typical formula. I can kind of do without nowadays in some ways. I like the kind of, this feels like even though it's a game from the 90s, early 90s, this feels like a fresh take on one of those, because I kind of get some of that fun experience of like, you know, leveling up characters, having an interesting storyline to follow, and like, you know, finding equipment and exploring around. You kind of get a little like that, but like in a small little kind of, you know, morsel version of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's nice. And yeah, and like it does not seem like it'll end up being super long, because like I only have 2 more stories left. I have like the far future, and I think it's like the ninja or like Japanese time. Those are the 2 I have left. And I'm only at like 10, 11 hours in. So I think it doesn't seem like it'll end up being super long. But I have no idea what that kind of true final thing is once you complete all 8 and you have some kind of final segment. I have no idea what exactly that all is. So I guess
Tetsuya Nomura steps into the game.
Oh God.
Time travels all these people, pulls their hearts out of their bodies into replica forms.
Cloud Strife puts on another dress. But in the future.
Nailed it. I know. Moving on.
Yep. I'm in. I mean, what? But yeah, that's all I've been playing. Having a lot of fun with Cult of the Lamb and Live Alive for sure. They've both been fun for sure. But yeah, I think that might do it for the show. We were talking about potentially ranking some Mario Kart 8 tracks, but we're about to hit the 2-hour mark, and that feels like
we had so much news.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had planned to do a lot of Mario Kart talk this episode, just because also soon here it'll be the 30th anniversary of Mario Kart as a series.
Ooh.
It's like it's like the end of August.
All Nintendo anniversaries are
when-
happening. Like they all happen so close to each other. No wonder Nintendo doesn't do anything for them.
Yeah, they can't keep up. But we'll definitely do. We will do that. I will say we will at some point rank specifically some Mario Kart 8 tracks. We were going to do the predictions too, but then obviously we talked earlier, like most of the stuff is leaked at this point, so it's like we kind of already know a lot of what's coming. That's fine. So we'll probably just do a ranking, and we'll probably what I'm thinking is we'll do some of the DLC tracks, but then we'll also add in some of the original 8 tracks, and by the end of the DLC we'll have like a fully ranked Mario, all 90 some tracks that'll be there by that point.
Jesus, so many tracks, so awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It's fantastic to have one big Mario Kart game for sure. But look forward to that in the future. But that was another trip to Nintendoland. As Alex said at the top, if you're going to PAX
West,
Seattle,
baby,
we're
coming out of retirement.
We'll be there. We'll be covering some stuff. We'll be looking at stuff, playing some video games.
We don't really know how it's gonna go, but
we're gonna try and do some video stuff. It might be maybe not our dumb faces on a thing or anything like super elaborate or special. We're gonna put some stuff together. Yeah, we're gonna try and
depending on how it goes, maybe there'll be more stuff that maybe we'll actually be able to get the ball rolling on stuff and get more stuff cooking in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting. We haven't been able to see any of our contacts or people we know for a long time. So
yeah,
it'll be a good time.
And just see other creators and stuff too. It'll be very nice.
Other things I want to shout out though, if you don't, you should follow Irrational Passions on Twitch, because we try and stream every Wednesday as a group.
That's right.
And we might ease a little bit until PAX happens, but after PAX, we're definitely going to be doing some Salmon Run, Splatoon stuff. There's Monster Hunter 8, Monster Hunter Rise. Free title updates have happened. Some more Sunbreak stuff. I'm going to see if I can get Jared to play more of that. And if you haven't checked it out, you like Dungeons and Dragons, you should go listen to IPD&D.
That's right.
7 episodes of that are up now, which
Dang.
is crazy. We recorded the pilot episodes in August of last year, so it's been a year of that already.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free.
But the first episode didn't come out till February, so it's fine.
Always keeping stuff in the bank is good.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's not necessarily Nintendo related, but at the time this is coming out, there will also be a lot of Destiny content. Destiny 2
yes, that's
content by the time this episode comes out, because we're getting a showcase of the next expansion and some updates. And as you know, sister site Helm to Tower, or Destiny 2 focused, just like this is Nintendo focused, we have a separate YouTube channel that's focused on Destiny 2 called Helm to Tower. Yeah. So if somehow your interests cross with, feel free to check out also that stuff as well, because we'll talk
about the Lightfall announcements and stuff.
Yeah, we'll hopefully stream some of the showcase. We'll watch it in the season. That hopefully that stuff will probably have already happened by the time you hear this, though.
Yeah, but we're excited in the moment that we're recording this.
We're excited. Tons of stuff happen. So yeah, tons of stuff happening here. So feel free to keep checking out. Subscribe to YouTube. Follow us on you said Twitch, or even on Twitter at Irrational Passions, or check us out on the podcast services. But thank you as always, if you've already been listening to our stuff. We love you very much, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.